The USDA updated their official Plant Hardiness Zone Map, and most backyard growers haven't looked at it once since the change. That matters more than people realize. Those zones aren't just about temperature. They determine what crops survive in your specific region, how long your growing window is, and whether the plants you're counting on for food production are going to finish the season or fail halfway through it. When I went through the update, I found 3 of the most common crops in American backyard gardens now fighting conditions they weren't bred for. 3 crops that show up in nearly every food garden in this country that most people replant every year out of habit, not because they're still the right choice. I'll tell you which ones they are, what's happening to them in the ground, and what to grow instead. Stuff that produces. Stuff that fits the conditions people are dealing with now. Before the 3 crops, it helps to understand what the map update changed. The USDA Plant Hardiness Zone Map was updated in 2023 for the first time since 2012. 11 years of climate data that wasn't reflected in the version most gardeners were still using. When the new map came out, roughly half of the United States shifted into a warmer half zone. Some areas moved up a full zone. Winters are shorter, summers run hotter and longer, and the shoulder seasons are less predictable than they used to be. For someone trying to grow real food, that shift touches every decision from February to November. The part that gets overlooked, warmer winters mean pest populations that used to die back in December are now surviving into spring. Fungal pressure goes up when heat and humidity run together over longer stretches. Crops that were reliable in your region 10 years ago are facing a different set of conditions now, struggling in ways that look like bad luck but are bad fit. People are using the right technique on the wrong crop. So let's start with the one nobody wants to hear about, the beefsteak tomato, the big slicer, the one that's been the centerpiece of American backyard gardens for generations. Ask 100 people what they grow, 80 of them say tomatoes, and most of them mean the large fruited varieties that have been on seed racks since their parents were gardening. What most people don't know, large fruited tomato varieties abort their flowers when temperatures push above 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Not the fruit, the flowers. No flowers, no fruit, ever. The plant looks fine, green and growing, nothing obviously wrong. But when the heat settles in for a week in July, which is a normal summer pattern now across most of the South, the Midwest, and increasingly the Mid-Atlantic, those flowers drop and the production window closes. I've talked to growers in Georgia and Tennessee who do everything right. Good soil, consistent water, proper spacing. They still end up with tomato plants that look healthy and produce almost nothing during the hottest stretch of summer. That's not a skill problem. It's a variety problem. Cherry tomatoes, Sun Gold, Sweet 100, Black Cherry, were bred with more heat tolerance. They keep setting fruit at temperatures that shut a beefsteak down. They ripen faster, which means you're harvesting before the worst heat arrives. And they produce over a longer window rather than concentrating everything into one short flush. If you're not ready to give up on large tomatoes entirely, look at heat-tolerant heirloom varieties. Mortgage Lifter and Arkansas Traveler were both developed in hot climates and handle high temperatures better than most modern hybrids. They won't give you a beefsteak in August, but they'll give you fruit when a beefsteak gives you nothing. The practical move this season: keep 1 or 2 of your favorite large fruited varieties if you want, but replace at least half your tomato space with cherry varieties. You'll have fruit through the hard months, and by September you'll know exactly why the swap made sense. The second crop catches people off guard because the problem with it isn't what they think it is. Everyone knows lettuce bolts in the heat. That part isn't news. What the new zone data shows is how much that shift has compressed the window where lettuce is worth growing at all. In a lot of the country right now, the gap between soil is warm enough to plant in spring and too hot for lettuce to hold is running about 3 weeks. 3 weeks to get seeds in, germinated, and producing before the heat shuts it down. That's not a growing window. That's a sprint with bad odds. Fall planting, which used to be a reliable second chance for lettuce in zones 6 and 7, is getting squeezed from the other end too. Summer heat is holding later into September across many regions, pushing the fall lettuce window back to the point where you're racing the first frost instead of easing into it. The part that changes the math: A bed of lettuce that bolts gives you nothing. No partial harvest, no fallback. 1 week it's usable, the next it's bitter and done. For a food garden, that's one of the worst return on space ratios you can have. Swiss chard doesn't work that way. A chard plant holds through summer heat that would collapse a lettuce bed in a week. You harvest the outer leaves and the plant keeps growing. One established plant produces continuously for 3 to 4 months. I've had chard run from May all the way into November in Zone 6 without replanting once. That's a different calculation entirely. Kale holds through heat and extends further into fall. It sweetens after a light frost, becomes more palatable. In zones that now run warm into October, kale gives you a green harvest window that lettuce can't match on either end of the season. The practical move: this spring, put 2/3 of your green space into chard and kale. Keep a short row of lettuce if you want fresh salad greens in early April, but don't build your food plan around a crop with a 3-week window in a 12-month year. The third one is the most surprising because it doesn't look like it's struggling. It looks fine above ground all season. The problem only shows up at harvest, and by then the growing season is over. The common white potato. Tubers develop underground, and they need cool soil during bulking, the stage when the potato is gaining size. When soil temperatures climb above 80 degrees Fahrenheit, tuber development slows. Above 85, it stops. In a lot of growing regions now, that threshold gets crossed in June or early July, weeks before the plant would normally be ready to harvest. The result is a plant that looks healthy above ground and produces disappointing tubers below it. Small, misshapen, far below what the seed packet suggested. And because the problem stays invisible until you dig, most people blame their soil or their watering schedule. They try again next year with the same crop and get the same result. On top of that, the Colorado potato beetle is extending its range northward as winters get milder. Areas that used to see minimal pressure are now reporting beetle populations through spring that require active management. Heat stress on the plant, rising pest pressure, and white potatoes don't carry much margin for either. Sweet potatoes are built for exactly the opposite situation. They want heat and long, warm growing seasons. A sweet potato plant that goes in the ground in late May in a zone that now runs warm through October has 4 full months of productive growing ahead of it. Hot soil doesn't slow them down, and most people don't know this part. Sweet potato leaves are edible, high in vitamins A and C, and good sautéed with garlic and olive oil. While the tubers are developing underground through summer, you're harvesting greens from the same plant every few weeks. 2 crops, 1 planting, same square footage, same season. When space is limited and you're trying to feed people rather than fill a raised bed, that math adds up fast. The practical move: replace your white potato bed with sweet potatoes this season. Plant slips rather than seed potatoes. You can order them from nurseries in late winter, or start your own from a grocery store sweet potato in a jar of water in February. Get them in the ground once soil temperature holds above 60 degrees, give them room to run, and start harvesting leaves around week 4. The tubers come in fall after the first light frost signals them to stop growing. 3 crops, 3 adjustments. None of them require a new garden, a bigger budget, or starting over. What they require is looking at your backyard and asking whether what you're planting matches where your region is now, not where it was when you first started growing. The growers who struggle most aren't the ones with bad soil or bad technique. They're running last decade's playbook in this decade's conditions. A backyard can look productive and still leave a family heavily dependent on the store, and usually that gap comes down to a handful of choices made at planting time. The USDA zone map is a starting point. Checking where your property falls on the updated version takes about 2 minutes. Put in your zip code, see your zone, know whether the rules you've been following still apply. Worth doing before you order seeds this year. I'll put the link in the description. You go to the site, type in your zip code, and it pulls up your exact zone with a color-coded map. Takes about 30 seconds. Once you know your zone, the number shows up on almost every seed packet and plant tag you'll find at a nursery. You'll see something like Hardy to Zone 6 or Best in Zones 7 to 10. That's the grower telling you whether that plant was bred for your conditions. Most people walk past that information without reading it. Once you start looking for it, you won't be able to stop. The zone number alone won't tell you everything, but it tells you the most important thing: whether the plant you're about to spend a season on was built for where you live. If you want to go further, I've put together a list of the tools and resources I use for this kind of planning on the channel website. Link is in the description. Which of these three surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. And if you're growing food for real reasons, subscribe. That's who this channel is built for. If I were starting fresh this season, sweet potato slips would go in before anything else. One planting, greens all summer, tubers in fall. In a warming zone, that's about as close to a reliable bet as a backyard garden gets.